What is up, gamers? What is up, gamers? What is up, gamers? It is your boy MM2K of PNTS Network, Geeks, Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage, MM2K Gaming, you name it, I'm there. And we're back again with a special show. This is Intro Podcast. It is titled, no, not Intro Podcast, Intro Mic Check, and it's titled, The Xbox Community Attacks Their Creators Over Xbox Tax. Good for them. Thank you all for checking me out. I'm going to get into the crux of what I mean by that in a little bit. We're not going to be here forever. I got errands to run. I got games to play, babies to kiss. All right. So with that said, no further ado, let's pay our bills. All right. Let's do this. Hold on. Here we go. This is our website, PNTS Network, where you can get the latest and greatest in gaming news from all of our sister content. Cloud Dosage, MM2K Gaming, Geeks will soon have a page here. All that great stuff. Just come over here to just come over here to PNTSnetwork.com and you'll be able to see all that great stuff. Also, if you're just looking for my content, which I implore you to check out everything that's here. But if you're looking for my content, go to MM2K Gaming, click there. You'll see my page with my monikers, Batissimo, all that great stuff. And look, this is us right here. This is the stream right here. It says preparing your stream. I don't know why it's doing that, but commercial break in progress. Oh man, that's crazy. I don't know why it's doing that, but you can also check out my YouTube channel and see all the great stuff that we're doing there. We just released a first look video of Synced. That is the free-to-play MMO shooter that's available via Steam. I think it's on Epic Game Store as well. But I had about an hour or so. I played around with the game, gave my initial thoughts. Definitely checked that one out. It was one I was interested in trying, and you can hear my thoughts on that. Go over to MM2K Gaming. Go at youtube.com/@MM2K Gaming. You don't know how to get there? Just go over here on our YouTube list. As you can see, I'm everywhere. Ubi Most Gaming as well. Click there. It'll take you to the stream. Take you to the channel, and then you can check out the stream from there. Matter of fact, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's show the people what they're getting themselves into. If they click there, it'll take you here. MM2K Gaming. Just go ahead, click on this fantastic video, and hopefully you will enjoy it. All right. Okay. That said, also Ubi Most Gaming, we will refocus on Ubisoft content. That we were supposed to be doing a show today, because what we're going to start doing is the last Monday of every month is when we're going to do an Ubisoft show. We're going to just reschedule that for some other time this week. And we'll talk about what's going on with Ubisoft, some good, some bad, some like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? But it's long overdue. We haven't had an Ubimost podcast, and then that's now going to become a monthly show to where every Monday we're going to be curating Ubisoft content. So check that out. All right. That said, thank you guys for coming through, checking us out. We have a very interesting topic that we want to talk about. It's in relation to this tiresome Xbox tax. And I have to be 100% honest with you guys. This Xbox tax thing is becoming so, he said, don't. Shout out to Cold Blood. This Xbox tax thing is becoming so tiring that I don't even want to go on Twitter anymore. Because it's such a whine baby fest. It's disgusting. And it's like Old Yeller, the movie Old Yeller. You take the dog back out in the back, and right when you stare the dog in the eyes, the dog is, it's like the sad moment. You got to stare Old Yeller in the eyes before you cock back the hammer. And kaboom! This resembles the sentiment of Xbox, not Microsoft Gaming. We talked about the difference on Inner Podcast. Shout out with my brother Cold Blood Sensei. Not Microsoft Gaming. Microsoft Gaming isn't going anywhere. But Xbox, the division that now has been officially carved out and given to Sarah Bond. This is the Old Yeller moment, it feels like, for Xbox. And what do I mean by that? I mean the console, the ecosystem, and Game Pass. I think we're going to see some radical change in the future. And Sarah Bond she's just been hired to walk Old Yeller out to the back. See if she can pump some life into him, but things ain't looking too great. And if Old Yeller doesn't come back, she's going to cock that, they're going to stand behind her. She cocks the hammer back, takes him out, and then Sarah Bond's talents will go elsewhere. Because Microsoft Gaming still needs the Xbox core gamer still involved and still needs them enthused until they figure out a way to get past them and make the bulk of their money elsewhere. This is not we want to expand from Xbox and make it bigger and better. It's like, how can we got to maintain what we got going over here with these folks until we can breeze past them. That's what Sarah Bond is there to do. That's what, and it feels like they're more on the side of this thing may not be salvageable, opposed to how can we inject more life into this. I think, Cold Blood, hit it on the nail on NRO Podcast, episode 40. Definitely check it out on Geeks. On Twitch too, go to twitch.tv/geeks. That's spelled GEIX Crew. Go to Geeks Crew. Check out episode 40. You'll hear Cold Blood talk about, that this thing, that Xbox portion might be on its way out. Now, Game Pass, will they then take Game Pass and make it an Xbox game affair, give you access to some free-to-play games so they can still make the bulk of their money off the free-to-play games? Because that's where the bulk of their third-party money is coming from, the free-to-play games, all the DLC and stuff that you guys buy. So in a perfect world for Xbox, they no longer have to pay an exuberant amount of money to get certain games in Game Pass anymore. Like they can hold the subscription service up with their own games. You go and buy you go and purchase Game Pass that gives you access to all their games day one. You still get access to free-to-play games. And then for a la carte purchases, if you're a PC gamer, great. You get them issues off the Windows PC store. Because as things are going right now, Xbox console gamers aren't buying games anyway. The majority of their interaction is via Game Pass. And if it's a free-to-play game, they're spending their money on DLC, Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. So having Alan Wake available for the console or for any dedicated dongle or piece of hardware may not be what they care about. What they may let you do is buy the Windows Store version on PC. And they might have some way to where you can remote, you know what I'm saying? You can stream or remote your a la carte purchase off the Windows Store using xCloud via Game Pass. Or maybe you don't. If they can't get past that hurdle, where they're not allowed to stream, particularly third-party a la carte purchases, if they can't do that, then you won't. I still think the Windows Store will be around, but there's going to be the Windows Store integration that's going to be on PC, that's going to be available for a la carte purchases. I think that's going to be their plan B if they can't inject life into the Xbox ecosystem altogether as is. Cloud isn't doing what they needed to do. Game Pass isn't hitting marks. Seeing growth on PC, but that growth that it's seeing on PC, along with other things, is not closing the gap between them and their competitor. So how can they imagine a world where they're bigger than their competitor if they can't close the gap on their competitor? How can they look past PlayStation and say our true, competitors or Tencent and Amazon when you can't even surpass PlayStation? So these are things that a lot of you may not want to hear. You may hear it and you think that I'm hating, but I just want to remind you, you're going to fall on whatever way you want to on this. I am a former Xbox fanboy. I came to this platform batting for Xbox all the way, battling some of your favorite content creators, Porter Rock and others. I've had back and forth with my homie Thrash. They're all my homies, but I had back and forth with them. King Thrash coming on our show, Scram Punks. I've done shows with Randolph Thor, where we talked and praised the Xbox and talked about some negative things as well. And then in the interim, I just continued to watch this regime and watch them not do anything with this brand that just had so much magic and power behind it. A brand who is the only brand in gaming to go toe to toe with PlayStation. So the formula is already there. So that's why when I hear things like Sony's money hatting, or the tools aren't ready, or Xbox tax, I just shake my head in disbelief, shrug my shoulders and shake my head in disbelief, like, this is defeatism. They won't let us be great. Let me explain something to y'all. This is where the whole Xbox tax, even though I'm applauding you going after your content creators, but I'm gonna explain why. Let me first go into why the Xbox tax just doesn't hold any water. It's horse-ish. My favorite console generation, the generation that sealed the deal for me with Xbox, the Xbox 360 generation. They sold that Xbox with a 60% failure rate. They had to come out early. They knew what they were doing. 60% failure rate. People was wrapping towels around their console, and eventually Microsoft had to own up to it and say, yes, we messed up. This is faulty, and pay at the time an unprecedented $2 billion to fix it. Now, was there bias and custom mindset towards PlayStation? There was, because PlayStation was king. PlayStation was nostalgic for many people. The PlayStation 1, that's what brought most of these people that are in gaming right now into gaming. It was the PlayStation, the PS1, Final Fantasy 7, the original, and all that stuff, right? Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, right? So there were moments where journalists and people were like, hold on, when the 360 came about, hold on, we know that the PlayStation 3 is more expensive. We know that it may not be playing your third-party games the way that you want, and we know that Xbox is now starting to release these this first-person shooter thing all over the place, and it's looking crazy and nuts out here. But come on, give PlayStation a chance. I remember when people like Adam Sessler was saying stuff like that. So was there a bias? There was a bias. And then you got to look at the first few years of the Xbox. That's why now when they compare the trajectory of like the first 12, 24, 36 months of the Xbox, of all the Xboxes, the Xbox 360 is like last or second to last out of all the consoles, even though it sold way more than the Xbox One. The Xbox One had a bigger trajectory. Why is that? because at the time that the Xbox 360, those first 3 years, it still wasn't trusted by the general gamer. The general gamer was still like, hold on, I may feel a little uneasy about the PlayStation 3, but I don't know about this 360 yet. I don't know about this Xbox yet. I'm not sure. So they just stuck with their PlayStation 2s. And then it was after the 3-year mark, where the 4-year mark and so on started to hit. Did people say, you know what? Nah, this Xbox thing is killing it. This thing is rocking. I'm gonna go with it. And that's when a substantial fan base was developed for the Xbox. It was only then. It took it some time. So when you go into the Xbox One generation, that fan base that they build up after year 3 with the 360, for the most part, a lot of them are still there. Now, a lot of them did go over to the PlayStation 4, but a lot more were solidified with the Xbox, including myself. So that's why you see those first 36 months, the Xbox 360 lags behind, because it hadn't solidified its fan base yet. So now we move forward to now, because even though the Xbox 360 had to win over the minds and hearts of the media and the community, because before it hadn't been proven. Before it was just a box that had Halo. But when the 360 came on, it was a lot more, and it had to prove itself. So was there bias and was there a comfortability with PlayStation? Yes. But guess what the 360 did? Despite having a 60%, not 30, 60% failure rate. Despite you having to stop gaming for a while to ship your console back in and wait till it was fixed and be shipped back to you. Despite all that, the Xbox went toe to toe during the era of that console generation, went toe to toe with the PlayStation, and reports show that during that time frame, they walloped the PlayStation in software sold. Nobody has ever done that. And that's why I don't like the merging of this belief in the Xbox tax, which is the belief that anything that is groomed, created, or produced by Microsoft is already going to be scrutinized and looked at worse than it would be if it was produced elsewhere. Period. That's the belief system of the Xbox tax. That people hate Xbox and Microsoft so much, it doesn't matter how well it does. It's always going to get lower marks. That's why they call it the Xbox tax. The Xbox tax isn't just simply being biased towards PlayStation, because people were biased towards PlayStation during the PlayStation 3 era. But we weren't calling it a tax. It was a bias, but it wasn't a tax. Why did we just consider it a bias, not a tax? Because a tax assumes that it's irreversible. You see what I'm saying? And that's where you have to be careful. There are a lot of these creators out here and zealots that are bringing up this Xbox tax, and they're trying to mold it and meld it together with PlayStation bias. They're not the same thing. The Xbox tax is a theory that the community and media members, in an irreversible fashion, will always take points away from anything that's produced by Xbox and Microsoft. So let's just say if Spider-Man 2 was made by Microsoft, the same exact game from beginning to end, if it was made by Microsoft instead of PlayStation, the theory of the Xbox tax is, instead of it being a 90, it would probably be like an 82, and it wouldn't be nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. That's what the Xbox, and their belief system is, it's irreversible. because it's irreversible, because it's based upon people not liking Microsoft. So the only variable to change that is it can't be made by Microsoft. So as long as it's made by Microsoft, it's always going to be pegged lower. Where when we're talking about a bias, people are simply saying this group favors said product. But it doesn't mean that their favorability of said product is irreversible. Because what did the 360 prove? The 360 proved it isn't irreversible. If you come out with stellar products, stellar games, that bias is wiped away, regardless of how big or how small the bias is. People just want great content. So as people were skeptical of the Xbox brand when the 360 came out, and they were still like, I'm not sure. When Xbox started killing it, they were like, okay, now I'm sure. So that's the history of the PlayStation bias versus the Xbox tax, and why the Xbox tax is simply a farce. It does not exist. It doesn't exist. Before I go on to the next part and talk about what's going on now, let me read these chats. Cold Blood says, they so desperate here in Europe, they bundle the Series S with a physical FIFA game. Laugh out loud. It's the Xbox One version. Is it the Xbox Series S? Is it the Xbox One S? I thought it was the Series S. Hold on. Let me take a look at that. No, that's a Series S. Because I'm looking at the corner, Cold Blood, and I see, and the Series S is the only one that comes with a 512 gigabyte SSD. Yeah, the 1S doesn't have an SSD. So that's the Series S. But yeah, I mean, it's still a sign of desperation because those things won't sell. So, yeah. So that's what's going on in regards to this Xbox tax. People are trying to distort reality, and they're assuming that any bias that someone may personally have in regards to PlayStation is a tax, meaning that they cannot favorably look at an Xbox brand and say, you know what? I may be used to this serving my needs, but damn, this is great. That thought process has been eradicated with the 360. The 360 shoots the Xbox tax theory in the foot. Why? Because even though, admittedly, there was a bias, I know about it. I remember, again, Adam Sessler and y'all please try the PlayStation 3. It's a good machine. Why would I buy something that's $100 more, but the games can play better elsewhere? That's a bias, yes. But just like Adam Sessler had that bias towards PlayStation, it was eradicated during the 360 era. And if you remember, when the PlayStation 4 was being rolled out and Adam Sessler was doing his thing on the web and he wasn't getting the PlayStation 4 access all like that, he jumped on Xbox. He jumped on PlayStation. Then he had an Xbox bias. You see what I'm saying? So the quality of the output and the content makes whatever biases that are out there malleable. The Xbox tax assumes, you'll never pick yourself up. It's a victimhood that's disgusting and doesn't belong in gaming because it excuses self-examination, self-awareness, and pushing yourself to do better. This is technology. We always need people to be heavily scrutinized and for them to do better. This is not about you just, I think, even though I haven't played them, I think the PlayStation games are overrated. So because I think PlayStation, like I haven't touched Spider-Man, haven't played it, haven't touched Final Fantasy, but my favorite Xbox creator put together some montage, some salt, what they call it, salt mine, that BS, some salt mine montage of so-and-so games, so I believe them. And the PlayStation games are overrated, so because they're overrated, you always throw them a bone. Why can't you throw us a bone? That's the victimhood mentality of those that push this Xbox tax propaganda. I mean, people actually believe it. I do believe that they believe it, but their mind has been warped by these creators. So what's going on now? Well, what's happening now is that the Xbox community has taken over the airwaves on Twitter and elsewhere talking about this Xbox tax. We've already broken down what they want you to believe it is, but what it actually is, which is their belief. It's not so much that their belief that their games are great. They don't believe that. They just believe PlayStation games are mediocre. And they believe that because those games are mediocre, that they're just being thrown a bone when Spider-Man gets nominated for Game of the Year and gets so many awards, when Final Fantasy gets this accolade. They think that PlayStation games are just being thrown a bone because there's just this brand loyalty towards PlayStation. And they want to combat that with equal amounts of brand loyalty to Xbox. It's not that they think the Xbox games are great. They don't. Why don't they? The numbers speak for themselves. Look how Starfield has dropped off. And I don't want to hear that BS about, it's a single player game. This is a Bethesda Softworks game. Bethesda Softworks games get engagement forever and ever and ever. They don't just drop off. They don't see that type of decline so swiftly. They only start getting revved up. Why? Because a month or so after release, then you got the mods coming in. And then when you get the mods coming in, that's when the engagement increases. This is not an atypical single player game. This is not Gears of War. This is not God of War. This is a Bethesda Softworks game. So get out of here with that bunk about, it's a single player game and a sharp decline doesn't happen in a single player game. No, shut up. Bethesda Softworks games, particularly on Steam, where you can apply the mods now, they see upticks. It's gotten so bad that Starfield at times will now have less players than Skyrim. That is not what Bethesda Softworks games are intended to do. Todd Howard said himself, he wants people playing these games forever for hundreds of hours. We have the former Bethesda Softworks guy that was doing an interview talking about some of the challenges in developing Starfield, and he felt like it would be better received if instead of doing 1,000 planets, they would have just focused on densely populated 100 planets. I urge you to listen to that interview. I think it was done on Giant Bomb. I can't remember. If someone remembers, please drop that link to that interview here. So do not give me that trash about Starfield's a single player game and all the single player. Look at God of War. What about God of War? God of War. No, stop. It's a Bethesda Softworks game. They're of a different breed, of a different animal, and they have a different expectation. And because of that different expectation, that's why this game was so heavily promoted by Xbox. That's why Sarah Bond herself, the new president of Xbox, said that Starfield was the most important RPG of our time. Why would they put such branding and such gravitas behind Starfield, because the hope was that you will play Starfield and you will fall in love with it atypically like you do any other BSG game. And because you're in love with it, you're playing it for hundreds of hours at end, forever and ever and ever. You're not letting it go. That when you need a break in between your Starfield moments, you might check out the other stuff on Game Pass. But if you're simply playing Starfield, let's just, for a month, this sharp decline for a month. If you're simply playing Starfield for a month and you're done with Starfield and you're not letting it go, I mean, and you're letting it just, you're done. It's not just bad that you finessed the game for $15 because they knew that could happen, but you're not sticking with your engagement with Game Pass. Starfield was supposed to be a catalyst of sustained increased engagement with Game Pass. So if you're not doing that, that's a double whammy. Not only did you finesse the game for $15 instead of $70, but now you're not even staying. So that sharp decline means something. That's why Gaming Bolt said Starfield could be in trouble, because Starfield is not living up to its purpose. Unless Microsoft got the numbers to show otherwise, and don't show us any bullpucky like, oh, this is the most people that logged into a game a Thursday night after watching Friends. No. How many Game Pass subscribers were before Starfield? How many Game Pass subscribers are there month 1, month 2, and particularly month 3 after Starfield? That's how we determine Starfield success. Don't give me that crap about, well, they only rate by engagement. No, the engagement needs to be sustained. Otherwise, all this money going into the product or the service becomes a never was. It's simple math. Yes, Xbox may not need to go blow for blow on consoles with PlayStation, but they got to make up the gap somewhere else. How many more Game Pass subscribers do you have? Because 35 million ain't enough. If 35 million was enough, then you wouldn't have changed your expectation for Game Pass to just 15% of our overall revenue. Game Pass was being marketed and sold as your flagship product. Oh, no, it's just going to be 15% of our revenue. Bullpucky. Now, just because some of y'all are non-Mensa candidates, to put it nicely, and you can't fathom or understand or catch all this and make it make sense or connect the dots, I can. Because I have business experience, I have accounting experience, I have Fortune 500, well, no, now Fortune 100 experience. Even though you don't compete, their success isn't embroiled all in console sales for the long term. You got to show the difference. If you're not making it in consoles, the PC numbers, the Game Pass numbers, the cloud numbers, some numbers. Why have the Xbox community fallen into this black abyss, this black hole, this abyss of non-understanding? It's because of the creators, the same creators that they're now attacking. Let me go back to our comments. Cold Blood says, nah, now they're crying again at Sony stole Spider-Man. Oh my God. He says, Bethesda effed up, the mod tools aren't released yet. But there's still modifications that can be applied, Cold Blood. Like you're applying them. So the mod store, the mod tools, that make it easier may not be there, but people will still have there's still modifications that people can do to enhance the game. That said, so how do we get here today? Today, what is going on? Well, I don't want to do that. Today, people are going all over the internet whining and crying about the Xbox tax, and that's why Xbox can't go anywhere or do anything right, because they're always being unfairly rated, and it's never going to change because there's just this unmalleable brand loyalty to PlayStation. Right? So because there's that belief system out there, the Xbox community is now going to their creators, and they're like, okay, we figured out what's going on. It's the Xbox tax. Xbox is great. Xbox is fantastic. Xbox is knocking it out of the park, but nobody wants to recognize them. It has to be Xbox bias, aka the Xbox tax. Content creator, I want you to go out there and explain this to everybody. Do your job. I support you for a reason. I give you super chat for a reason. You've been telling me how Xbox is so great, how Xbox is going to destroy PlayStation this generation, despite that they didn't launch with any hardware. They don't have to, because Xbox has backwards compatibility, even though polls show you that gamers don't buy new machines for old games. But content creator, you've told me that it's different now. Then content creator, you told me that Xbox was going to make Sony do what they do as far as Game Pass is concerned. Sony's going to start putting their games in Game Pass day and date soon. What happened? Even though Sony isn't mimicking Xbox, Xbox is mimicking Sony. Guess what Sony did? Guess what Xbox did? They brought Xbox Live in, like Sony did, and now they have different tiers that mock Sony, and they have pricing now that mock Sony. You told me there was going to be 40 to 50 frame deltas, that PlayStation would still be a cool place to play games, but there would be a 40 to 50 frame delta in a same game on Xbox versus PlayStation. Even though the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox are splitting hairs, I would argue that it's very close, but there's probably more games that are current gen games that perform better on PlayStation than they do Xbox. Xbox knocks it out of the park with the last gen games, but again, people don't buy new gen consoles for last gen games. And when I say people don't, I mean the general populace don't do that. You're going to have outliers and everything, but the majority of gamers don't buy new consoles to play old games. So the games that matter to these people that bought these new consoles, it's very close, but it seems like the PlayStation 5 might have an edge on how many perform better there than they do on the Xbox. And it's crazy that the world's most powerful console, when it gets a win, it's celebrated because it's a rarity. I want to say, from what I've seen, like one, maybe out of the last like couple of years, maybe one out of every 3 games might perform better on Xbox. And I'm talking about, when I talk about games, I'm talking about AAA genre defining games, the games that make these consoles stand out. So being that you were told all those things, 40 to 50 frame deltas, Xbox is going to crush PlayStation because they got the cheapest console. Game Pass is going to force PlayStation to do what they do. Now that none of those things, none of those things that you were sold came to fruition, none of them have come to fruition. Oh, and last but not least, 2023, there's going to be a green wave, meaning that with all the games that Xbox releases, now they didn't release everything that they plan to release, but they did release games, and a lot more games than PlayStation, admittedly, that green wave is going to take over and force gamers to recognize Xbox for what it is, the great ecosystem that it is, the better ecosystem, and the green wave is going to start changing the course of activity when it comes to consumers, right? That was what the green wave was. And the staple of that green wave was to be what? Starfield. And guess what? The green wave didn't happen. So none of this stuff happened that you were told were going to happen. So because none of it happened, there's only one or two possibilities. Either you were simply wrong, either you were listening to people that were telling you things and packaging it in a very cutesy way that would indulge you and take advantage of some of your low acumen when it comes to this stuff. People that know better still took advantage of you and your unawareness with this, and you fell for a hook, line, and sinker. Either that happened, or there's a grand conspiracy versus Xbox. Now, here's what I have to say. The overwhelming majority of gamers, not media people, gamers, who interacted with some of the biggest titles on Xbox, all rate them either mediocre or low this year, except for one. Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was the only game that gamers interacted with and they felt favorably about it. All the other games that they've interacted with, gamers was like, puh. So the green wave was nothing more than green sludge. There was a lot of it, yes. But it wasn't tantalizing, it wasn't exciting, it wasn't inspirational at all. There was just a lot of it. It reminds you of that Nickelodeon sludge that they used to drop on the kids doing, I forgot the name of the shows that used to be on Nickelodeon, right? When you look, don't take it, don't forget IGN, forget GameSpot, forget Metro. Look at the gamer scores from people who can't leave these scores unless they buy the game. Look at these gamer scores on the Xbox application itself. Look at the scores on Steam. So all of us have been brainwashed, and so let's listen to this. Let's settle it this way. Have all of us been? Is it more plausible that all of us, the majority of gamers, the majority of gaming consumers out there and the likes, is it more plausible that we were all brainwashed, or the minority of you who represent the minority of gaming were brainwashed by content creators who knew better but took advantage of your naivete? Oh, you don't want to believe the latter. I know you don't. You don't want to believe it. There's no way. I'm too smart for that. But you know what? I was there with you. And I had to admit, I was making a mistake. I was making a mistake based upon nostalgia, for one, and for two, my hatred towards PlayStation. I was with y'all. I hated PlayStation. My hatred for PlayStation goes all the way back to the PlayStation 1. I was part of that geek group, and we talked about it here on Mike Check earlier on the previous shows. Check it out. That when PlayStation hit the scene, they opened the floodgates of consumers that were not gamers. They didn't understand the culture. They weren't at the arcades like us or playing the tabletop games and all, buying games overseas for $100 and taking the cartridge off because that's the only way you could play the Japanese Genesis games. And they weren't doing all that nerdistry stuff. They were playing PlayStation because it was interactive, it was entertaining, and it looked cool. PlayStation, as the entertainment company that they are, made gaming cool. Gaming wasn't cool for the average consumer or the average entertainment consumer before PlayStation. It just wasn't. There was some fun to be had. Like everybody played Duck Hunt. There was those outliers here and there. Everybody, well, not everybody. A large swath of people would play Mario Brothers, but that's it. The majority of the other games that were being played by the gaming nerds. PlayStation made gaming cool for the average consumer. I remember when PlayStation was first being advertised, my aunt, who at the time I believe was in her 50s, had said, "Oh yeah, I want that. I want to play that." My aunt hated video games. She used to throw us out of her damn house all the time. Get out of here playing them stupid video games. But even she, a non-gamer, an old fogey, that wasn't the only thing that she played again was Duck Hunt. Even she, when she saw that advertisement for the play, she said, "Oh my God, that looks so, the cinematics, and that looks so moving." And I can control. To her, it was controlling a movie. That's what it was. It was controlling a movie. And that concept was so cool to her. Meanwhile, us nerds were worried about gameplay, game design, graphics, and all that. We were worried about more intricate things. We're like, hold on. Sony is opening the floodgates to these casuals that just want to control a movie. And to our passion, our love, no, we don't like this. And because there were so many people that want to control a movie, a lot more than us gaming nerds, it changed the tide of gaming forever. So us gaming nerds didn't appreciate that. A lot of us stopped gaming like I did. I mean, I appreciated PlayStation RPG, but a lot more went to PC gaming. They said, "Oh, phooey, if the console world is going to be overtaken by PlayStation, we want nothing to do with it." And that, my friends, is at the heart of why you have a lot of PC gamers that generally are more hostile towards PlayStation. It's always been like that, because that PC gaming boom that was pumped up by Steam down the road had started after the mass exodus of the gamer nerd who was like, "Look, now consoles is all about gaming, controlling movies. I don't like that. I'm going to the PC where gaming is still intricate and thoughtful and innovative and stuff. Like, we're out of here." See, a lot of you don't realize that. So now we fast forward to when the Xbox came out, right? And the Xbox, what did it do? It resembled PC gaming, but brought to a box. So then that enticed the PC gamer who already has something against PlayStation. All right, now I can come back to console gamer and gaming, and hopefully this thing can socket to PlayStation. And then it just tantalized a whole bunch of other gamers, particularly with the 360. So there was always an angst or an anger or, this hatred towards PlayStation. And I'm not going to say all of it wasn't warranted. Sony earlier on was focused. This is what Sony's approach was. We're going to focus on making it seem like you control a movie. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go, because we got such a high saturation in homes because we tapped into an untapped market. Now we're going to approach developers and publishers and say, "Look, man, we will support you We will support your efforts on you making whatever type of game that you want. But you gotta release it only with us. And that's how PlayStation became the juggernaut that it was. And in order to reverse that, what did Xbox have to do? All they had to do was, imagine this, look, drop a lot of quality. That's all they had to do. They had to take another untapped market, which was the now more eccentric PC player, partially fueled by PlayStation 8. But the PC player that's more engrossed in intricate gameplay and stuff, and bring them over to console. That's all they had to do. So now that we have those two dynamics, we had a juggernaut of a match during the 360 era. But something happened with the Xbox One era. Microsoft arrogantly thought that instead of just having Sony on the ropes, they thought that Sony couldn't get back up. And they took their eye off the prize, and their marketing and their rollout of the Xbox just was not secure enough. And they lost out because of it. They didn't rebound from it. And a lot of it had to do with just perception. Because I will be the first to admit that even though PlayStation games played better on the PlayStation 4, the difference was not noticeable to the average gamer. We're talking an extra 180p that games were. And 60 frames per second was not a thing back then, all like that. Like, you had some games that could achieve it, but it wasn't a necessity back then. So what the average gamer was getting between both boxes wasn't that it wasn't as noticeable as how poor performant the PlayStation 3 was versus the Xbox 360. It wasn't that noticeable. But then you had companies like Digital Foundry that came on the scene that made money off of pumping perception. And so now what's happened is that it's been a perception game all this time. It's a game of perception. And I will admit that the first several years of last gen, most of that was perception. I mean, what Xbox was offering versus what PlayStation was offering, I will say up until, I'll give them Uncharted, even though I'm not a big fan of the game, because Xbox really didn't have anything of that magnitude. When I say magnitude, I don't mean it was that Uncharted 4 was just a mind-blowing game. I don't think it was. But they didn't have anything of that magnitude and that polish. That AAA genre defining-ish. They didn't have that. They were trying with Tomb Raider, and what happened with Tomb Raider was an embarrassment, where people were like, well, how come we want to play this game and it's only available on Xbox. That was media bias at its worst. And as good as Tomb Raider was, I don't feel like Tomb Raider was well accepted because of that. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of bias and some nasty things going on. But it wasn't unmalleable. It wasn't unmalleable. If Xbox would have continued to pump out quality and stuff like that, they would have been able to change some minds, as they did with the 360 era. The problem was this regime, under its new CEO that really doesn't understand the culture, they didn't have an appetite to fight that way anymore. They said, we're gonna loss lead. We're going to change the dynamics of gaming, and we're going to make the winning lane a lane that nobody else can compete in, and that's loss leading. We're going to create this thing called Game Pass that we're going to force to be a mainstream entity, and we're going to do so by loss leading in a way that none of our competition can. And in the interim, what we're going to do is we're going to play this game that PlayStation so successfully played with us at the beginning of the Xbox One generation. We're really going to embrace influencers, and we're going to have them push a perception to push us over the top. Here's the problem with that. The problem with that is even though there wasn't much difference between PlayStation 4 offerings as far as games were concerned in the 360 those first few years, the PlayStation 4 offering was still better. There were things that the 360 did as an ecosystem, like on live and the controller and stuff, that were better at that moment. But when it came to the games, PlayStation was still better. And even though Tomb Raider wasn't given a fair shake, I will admit that, the overall experience was still better, even if it was slightly better. What am I saying about that? You can't push perception. You can't push perception of a lower quality experience to be better than its competition. What you can do is you can take the experience of an ecosystem that's slightly better and make it seem far better. But you can't do a switcheroonie like that. What Xbox needs in order to play that perception game and for it to work is they actually got to have a better offering than PlayStation, and they don't. What do I mean they don't? Game Pass is the bee's knees. Let me explain something to you. As much of a value as Game Pass presents for a number of gamers that just want to experience, that want to try out a bunch of different things, that subsect of gamers that just want to try out a bunch of things, y'all don't represent the average gamer. The average gamer buys 2 games a year. They might have 7 to 9 games in their catalog for the entire generation. They don't care about playing or trying 100 different games. So when you talk about a subscription service that puts games in day and date that people want to play, I gotta be honest with you. When I look at PlayStation's service and I see the fact that they got Tiny Tina's Wonderland and they got other games in there that speak more to the average gamer in there that they give you access to, that potentially could be more tantalizing when you look at an overall package. I got a better console. I can get a cheaper one for $400, one that's just $100 more than the Series S that can do so much more. And they got better games. And okay, they may not put their games in their subscription service day and date, but they got more games that I, as an atypical gamer, would interact with. Even though the subscription thing isn't that big of a deal for me, the average gamer. If I were to interact with it, their games would tantalize me even more than what's across. It's the overall perception. Or it's the overall package. And here's what's happening. Content creators, despite that, they don't talk about the fact that the Xbox console is being marketed as the world's most powerful console, yet it's splitting hairs with the PlayStation. The PlayStation Digital is $100 more than the Xbox Series S, and the Xbox Series S does not reach the benchmarks as it was marketed. They don't talk about the fact that the PlayStation games are just better. And they're worth that $70, where the Xbox games don't feel like that. Two of its biggest games, Redfall and Forza Motorsport, people don't feel like they're worth they're not worth the money that's out there for them. It's just Game Pass fodder. And people are looking at Game Pass like, okay, so what? All right, I'm gonna try it out for the Starfield thing. Nope, don't like it. At least I got to try it for $15, and I didn't have to commit a full $70 in order to try it. Then have to trade a game back in. They're not telling you that. They've told you all these lies. None of the lies came to fruition. The green wave didn't happen. The console isn't better. It's not getting more recognized. Now we got to rely on the excuses. What are the excuses? The Xbox tax. So now that we've run down the gamut of excuses, now that we've run down the gamut of things that they didn't reach, it has to be a conspiracy, right, content creator? Because you've told me why I should ignore console sales. You told me why I should ignore their launch lineup. You told me why I should ignore the fact that its performance, why it's splitting. It's supposed to be the world's most powerful console and it's splitting hairs. You told me that I should ignore the parity that is causing a bottleneck due to the Series S. You told me I should ignore the green wave being nothing but green sludge. What's the reason? It has to be a conspiracy, right, content creator? Because you were selling me all this book of goods. Why aren't you pushing that there's a conspiracy theory, content creator? Well, because there isn't one. What? What do you mean there isn't one? You told me all this stuff. You told me that if I invest in this ecosystem, it'll be worth my while because the green wave was coming. 40 to 50 frame deltas. Game Pass was going to become the industry standard for gaming in general. They were going to kill it in the cloud. Y'all told me that xCloud was better than Stadia, was better than GeForce. They're still saying that it's better than GeForce Now, even though GeForce Now can do 4K 120 frames per second on ultra settings. Game Pass does a sloppy, digitally downgraded looking 1080p 60. They're still saying that it's better. You're still selling me this crap. So if all this stuff that you're selling me hasn't come to fruition, it gotta be because there's a conspiracy. Why aren't you speaking out on the conspiracy, aka validating what you've been telling me? And they're not validating it because it wasn't true. It was never true. Why wasn't it true? I'm going to explain why. I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm not going to name the content creator's name. If you've been following my content, you'll know who I'm talking about. Way back in the day, back in our original PNTS network days, back in the days of Scram Punks, when we were planning out how the network would work, I remember telling this creator, look, we got a variety of talent here that goes hard for their ecosystem of choice. And if we keep pressing along, this will make us a juggernaut in the gaming spectrum. I said, we got you, who's an Xbox content creator. We got me. I'm focusing on cloud gaming and tech and stuff like that in Stadia. And cloud gaming is going to be the future. Trust me, I'm focused on that. We got a Nintendo person on Nintendo. So all we kind of like need is a PC person in here to complete the circle, and we can really build this network and really have staples in all forms of gaming that that is all relative to us, right? I said, but in order for that circle to be complete, like, I need you to do an Xbox podcast. You would kill it on an Xbox podcast. Oh, I don't know, man. Look, bro. You would kill it. I get that you get attacked by this one and that one. I got your back. Even though I'm not a big fan of Xbox, this is all for the family. We're going to kill this. But in order to complete this, you got to get an Xbox podcast. But look, I told this person, I said, the Xbox community, because I was just embedded in it. The Xbox community is seething at the teeth to take down PlayStation. And they're really ready to go romping against PlayStation next generation. I said, dude, I can't speak to the quality of the product. I'm going to be honest with you. I still got doubts on the quality of the product. But I said, bro, this has nothing to do with the excitement in the community. There's going to be so much excitement in the Xbox community. I said, bro, you could be a staple of that. If I'm lying, I'm flying. I told this person, you could be a staple of that. They couldn't believe. They were like, nah, who, me? No, absolutely not. I said, you could be a staple of that excitement. I said, we just give you a push and you'll do it. And they were skeptical about it. They didn't pursue it at first, but things started to happen. We started to push, like, yeah, go on this show, do this, do that. They started doing it. They started seeing how it worked and all that stuff. And they were like, you know what? I can do this. And you know what? As a big of a supporter of Xbox as I am, I think I can do this. But they still were like, still a little antsy. And then as time went on, they finally decided, some other people came on board and they finally decided to do an Xbox show. And now the rest is history. Now that individual done carved out a name for themselves in the Xbox community and have become a staple in Xbox content creation. Like I said, I could smell this. And we were having these conversations in 2018. I could smell what was going on now in 2018. But guess what? That doesn't make me a rocket scientist. That just means that I view things from 5,000 feet. But guess what? I'm not the only one that can view things from 5,000 feet. There were a lot of creators, a lot of people that could see like, whoa, this Xbox community is going to boil to a level that we haven't seen in a long time because they really want to take down PlayStation. Everybody can smell it and see it. So hence why you had a flux of content creators just all of a sudden side with Xbox out of nowhere. Again, Xbox didn't have a crazy lineup of games at launch. The performance isn't killing it versus the PlayStation. They're not slaughtering them. They're not hitting their marks like they said. Where did this come from? Game Pass been around. The games on the Xbox One generation were coming day and date. Not at the very beginning, but they were coming day and date back then. Has the quality of the Xbox games gotten better? Not really. No. Not even. Nope. They're still falling short of the highest of accolades. So what happened? Why is it that they changed all of a sudden to becoming the biggest Xbox supporters? It was you. It was you in the magnitude that you would support Xbox just to take down PlayStation. You were easy pickings for them. And they took advantage of you. Now, I can't completely blame them 100%. You got to have an acumen and understand your surroundings and want truth to prevail over your emotions. That's your fault. But I'm not going to give them a Medal of Honor for taking advantage of you. They took advantage of you. Because these are the people that are supposed to have inside information, right? These are the people that are supposed to be talking to Phil Spencer and this person and that person and you know, getting the inside information and letting you know why. Like some of these people were developers. They were claiming that they were talking to other developers, and that's why they come up with the 40 to 50 frame delta. They were sitting there telling you the stuff, this inside information they were getting. So I don't blame you for falling for some of this stuff. And they're assuring you, they're telling you with the utmost insistence, oh, nah, console sales don't matter, man. Game Pass is going to, don't pay attention to that. Game Pass is going to take over the world, man. They were just telling you everything to ignore the facts. Why? Because they were capitalizing off of your rage against PlayStation and your support of Xbox because of that rage. They were capitalizing off of this. This SALT content that all of a sudden popped up this generation, it's not a coincidence. Because guess what? Those same SALT people or SALT miners that told you lie after lie after lie, now they're the ones telling you that the Xbox tax doesn't exist. Why? Because your support cannot go beyond their credibility. It just goes too far to attack their credibility if they co-sign on the Xbox tax. Now that's taking it too far. They'll sit there and say how PlayStation is stupid all they want and how PlayStation gamers are dumb and gullible and create that. So they'll do that all they want. But now you're forcing them into actually co-signing on all the lies that they said. See, they can sit there and drop a lie here and drop a lie there and call it SALT content. But when you make them co-sign on a conspiracy, even though they've been validating that same conspiracy in so many words, when you simplify it, and give it a name like Xbox tax, and then you present it to them and say, okay, based off of the little ingredients that you've been giving me here and there, you serve it to them on a platter. This is what you've told me to cook. And they take the cover off the dish and it's just this grotesque looking thing. This is what you've been telling me to cook. Take a taste. See, now they don't want to do that. The Xbox tax is simply a culmination of everything these content creators have been telling you to do. Detach yourself from reality. In no real world can your core business line be this. You fall behind 3-1 in that core business line. You're not making it up anywhere else, but everything is fine. See, in the real world, that wouldn't even be entertained. But it's now being entertained because they've detached you from reality. Just watch us. Look at this stupid PlayStation fanboy. I'm going to say what he said out of context and make fun of him. SALT content. And what was their easy get out of free jail card? Oh no, so you don't get the shtick. You don't get it. It's just SALT content. It ain't always got to be accurate. We're just making fun. You get better at making this type of content. No, nobody wants to get better at lying to people. We want to talk about games and talk about the real trajectory that's happening in gaming. You want to lie to people and take advantage of them. Have you noticed that every single one of those creators, particularly the biggest ones now, They were PlayStation gamers last generation. They were PlayStation gamers last generation. Why aren't they PlayStation gamers this generation anymore? It ain't the games. Because look, if you were susceptible to believing that PlayStation was the best ecosystem last generation, why would you change now? The console is doing better now. They have more offerings to give you at the beginning of this generation than they did last generation. Because of so, it's selling better. The only thing that held it back at first was a supply restraint. They're offering more to you this generation than they did last generation. This generation, they have a successful portable device. PlayStation VR 2 is more enhanced. Everything that PlayStation, the controller's better. The online is more secure. Everything about PlayStation 5 is so much better than PlayStation 4, particularly at the beginning of the launch. What would make them leave that to go to this? Why would they, if PlayStation was so dominant and was so special, it's better now. It's absolutely better now. In all shape, form, or fashion. They can't miss now. Even in a year where they only release one first part, they can't miss. And you leave PlayStation for Xbox, who is doing what? Now they're starting to sell less than last generation. It doesn't make sense. Y'all gotta look at the evidence in front of you. Xbox is losing out now. It's performing worse. As far as console saturation, its main saturation, it's performing worse. Meaning it's less desirable. It's less desirable now, and now you want to support it? What the flub? And that's where, for these creators, they're not doing it because they support the platform vehemently. They're doing it because they see you and they saw you as gullible and easy pickings. And now that and they fed you a bunch of horse-ish. And now that you've collected the horse-ish back and said, no, you take some of it. Now you do what we need you to do. You talk about this Xbox tax. Now that you're giving it back to them, oh, no, there's no Xbox tax. No. See, they can serve it, but they can't eat it. So what do we do? So do I feel bad for people like Dustin Legary? No, I don't. Dustin Legary knows better. Now he cites that he doesn't like Xbox practices or PlayStation practices, right? Hence why he supports Xbox. He doesn't like the PlayStation practices. Tell me what's different about the PlayStation practices now that there weren't there before. The only thing that's different with PlayStation is that they're not doing showcases. And they're not showing you games. I will admit that. They're not showing you their games. But the stuff that they put out there is far better than the stuff that Xbox is putting out there. To Dustin's own admission. You can't sit there and tell me because of the ABK deal, you like Xbox better now. Destin, it doesn't matter to you about Game Pass. You're an industry person. You're gonna get the games anyway. So where did Destin come from? From being so critical of Xbox to now flipping the switch and being so critical of PlayStation, even though PlayStation, in all shape, form, or fashion, when I'm talking about the consumer offering, is so much better than what it was last gen. Why is that? Because of you. And when he sat up there and did that hand chart where he said, here, let me see if I can find it. I want to find this for you because this is instrumental in me underscoring the whole thesis of this this podcast. Here, let me go to Twitter. Let me go to Destin. Look, Gary. All right, let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. Oh, they're coming after him hard. Let me see if I can find it. I'm looking. Hopefully I can. J-Dub had something. Okay, here goes something interesting. Here goes something very interesting. Let me do this. And put this on the, and let me mute my mic. Let me mute the music, and I'm gonna put the audio on. So Destin says, I think I've said what I'm going to say about the Xbox tax at this point. I've been an Xbox fan since the start, and it's never going to change. I believe the Xbox brand is about to have an incredible 2024. See, here goes this. Based off of what? And it feels like it's just the tip of the iceberg I've always seen. It's the tip of what? I always feel like they have all the pieces set up exactly right now, and once they really hit their stride, it will be undeniable. See, that's just hey, look past the facts, look past the trajectory, and I'm going to speak some inspirational phraseology here. You know what I mean? To, again, keep you distracted from the facts. Even though I'm an Xbox fan, I don't, you could be a fan of something and talk about a trajectory, or you can be a zealot where you're trying to sell somebody something regardless of the reality of it. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm a huge Jujutsu Kaisen fan, but when I see the action that's supposed to be happening in the Shibuya arc, like the first half of the Shibuya arc, I loved it. And then there was this big fight scene in there, and it was only 30% done. And I even saw some slides in the anime where they forgot to color in some of the scenes. Like, oh my God, like what's going on? And now I'm starting, then the subsequent fight that I saw after that, it was like, I see some degrading, and I'm like, hold on, did these people have enough time to flesh out the ambitious nature of this season? And if not, what's wrong here? Because this deserves better. I could be a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen and still criticize that because I want it to stay at a higher echelon. But if I were to sit there and say, oh no, that was an artistic choice and you just don't understand, and why does everything in Jujutsu Kaisen gotta look good? That's zealotry. I'm trying to sell you Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime, and not really looking out in its best interest as far as it growing, but I just want it to be accepted. And the question is, why does Destin and others want Xbox to be so accepted, despite the facts? Well, for Destin, He's getting a lot of clicks because of it. Because he looked at 5,000 feet like me and others. But instead of him saying, you know what? Here's an opportunity for me to do an Xbox podcast with some of these more enthusiastic people, but still keep it real, and we can still get our numbers that way. I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to sell you the bullpucky. We decided, look, I may not be an Xbox fan, but we're working on a network. And for that individual that is the Xbox fan, we'll let you go out there and lead the charge. Now, when we have the conversations about Xbox, I'm going to keep it real. But at least you'll have your circle of people that you can take to a safe space and y'all can propagandize all y'all want. And you'll be the benefactor of it. But let me see here. Here's the part that's very interesting to me.
Laughed when I made my silly hand.
Okay. So I want y'all to hear this and use this to just show you how this crap is being propagandized to you and you may have not been the wiser. This is Destin Legary talking about how Xbox, he feels, is going to overtake PlayStation with no evidence. Well, this is the evidence that he has. He's showing you the evidence right now. He has Exhibit A and Exhibit B, and I'm going to show you.
Laughed when I made my silly hand graph talking about how the Xbox and the PlayStation are going to be close this console generation, and I actually think they're going to even out by the end of it.
You heard that. It's going to be close this console generation. Not, Microsoft Gaming and Sony's going to make the same amount of money. No, Xbox and PlayStation, this console generation, they're going to even out. Destin has been doing this for a long time, probably over a decade. He knows what sells consoles. Great games. We have not seen a display of great games from a fluidity, at least at that, of great games from Xbox. There is no sign of that. There was Starfield that might have, did some things. There's Hellblade that a lot of people are putting some faith into because it was critically acclaimed. But in between that, there is no fluctuation of great games specific to that console or that ecosystem that would validate what he said. He knows better. But he still said it. Why? Because you were ripe for the picking.
But you know who else talks about Xbox's shortcomings? Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer in 2022 called Xbox's release schedule a disaster. You have to take an honest look at what happened with Xbox. But you know who else talks about...
Now, hold on one second. See what I mean? Now, do you see what I mean? Once, you know what? I didn't flip. Let's do this one more time. I'm gonna do it one more time, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what he's doing. Let's do it one more time. This is Destin as he's trying to sell you the junk food and the crazy stuff. Just think of it as a fast food chain that you're like, hold on, is this stuff healthy? Yeah. Don't read the nutritional labels. Don't worry about the nutritional labels. Don't worry about what they're saying on TV about this food, the cholesterol and all of this stuff. Don't do that. Just pay attention to me, waving my hands. Trust me, this food is good for you. And of course, the head of McDonald's is going to say that because he wants to sell you a crap ton of crap because he gets money off of that. So this is Destin in that scenario selling you the crap. Listen to it.
Laughed when I made my silly hand graph talking about how the Xbox and the PlayStation are going to be close this console generation, and I actually think they're going to even out by the end of it. Everyone laughed.
You hear that? Now that's him serving you the horrible, cholesterol-filled, nasty, fast food that is no good for you. And look, just avoid the nutritional labels. Just pay attention to my hands. Now that you've come back to him and you said, look, you said that this food was going to be healthy for us. And now my doctors are telling me my cholesterol is high, my A1C is high. I got to be on diabetes medicine, and they got to put me on cholesterol medicine, and I got to go to the gym because I've gotten fatter. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. Like, because you told me that eating this food would be fine. Actually, it would be healthy for me. And these doctors are trying to rip me off. That's the conspiracy. It's the fat man tax. These doctors are trying to rip me off. They're trying to rip off my insurance, and I'm not going to fall for it. But I need you to speak up against this. Speak up about it. Now that they've come back to you with all of the things that you've propagandized and the end result of that, and they want you to validate it, content creator, now you have a problem with it. Why? Because now you got to co-sign on it specifically. And here's what they say once they bring the dish back to you.
Xbox's shortcomings? Phil Spencer in 2022 called Xbox's release schedule a disaster. You have to take an honest look at what happened with Xbox. But you know who else talked?
So with that said, my friends, let's get back in, get the music back on. With all that said, my friends, that's more than enough proof that you've been bamboozled. How can he sit there and tell y'all with a straight face that the Xbox console is going to outplace the PlayStation when the facts told you otherwise? Like, I'm not a genius. I'm just following the facts. I'm just doing all this screaming and yelling because I just want people to follow the facts. I'm not dissecting or presenting something in a way, in a nuanced way. I'm just telling people to follow the facts. If you follow the facts, everything that he said is preposterous. And he knows it's preposterous. But it's like McDonald's knowing that there's a lot of people that feel like they don't have time to sit and cook a meal and prepare a meal. They just want something easy on the go. So I'm going to take advantage of them. I'm going to sell them this nasty, greasy, fat-inducing food and tell them it's good for them. It's okay for them. Don't worry about it. They're out there telling you, oh, Xbox is going, the trajectory is this and the trajectory is that. And it's going to be this and that, and because when there's no evidence that that's going to happen at all, no evidence, none. So even though I'm not mad that these creators that tried to take advantage of you, that you're going after them, go after them. For a minute, I was mad about the Xbox tax thing because I just didn't want to see it fill in my timeline. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute it. I'm going to mute the word Xbox tax on Twitter. I just don't even want to hear it anymore. Matter of fact, let me do it right now. Let me go to my properties, settings and support. I'm going to do it right now. And those of you cold blood or wherever, I advise y'all do the same thing. Privacy and safety, right? Audience, media, and tagging. Manage what information you allow other people to see. Mute and block. Okay, here we go. Muted words. Oh yeah, I remember when I muted Bird Box. All right. Enter a phrase or a word. Xbox tax. This is from people you don't follow. No, I want it blocked from everyone. Xbox tax, and then let's do Xbox tax. I don't even want to see it anymore. Xbox tax. from anyone. Here we go. I'm muting the word. So even though I don't want to see it, because I don't want to see it on my timeline, I'm sick of it. It's bullish. What I'm going to say is, you go ahead, you guys do your thing, and you go after these creators. You go after them for telling you that everything with Xbox was fine and okay. Therefore, you collectively taken all their trash that they gave you, you put it in a bag labeled Xbox tax, and now you're delivering it back to them, and you're telling them to co-sign on this trash that they dropped. You go ahead and do that. But what you need to do in unison is you need to realize that you've been lied to, you've been bamboozled. It's not just about getting them to validate something that's out there. It's about you getting tethered to the truth. And the truth of the matter is that Xbox can do better. It's not over for Xbox. I'm not talking about Microsoft Gaming. Microsoft Gaming, headed by Phil Spencer, they'll be around, but they can survive without Xbox, quite honestly. Xbox, that thing where you indulge in the ecosystem or the console, that thing where you represent the majority of its consumer base, console gamer. And you do so because elsewhere is not that fathomable for you. You don't have the resources or the means to upgrade your PC. Every few days, it's just better for you to game on console. You know what I mean? You got, every time a new game comes out for PC, you got to upgrade this, upgrade that if you want to get your money's worth. And you rather just deal with the console where it's, you know, it's optimized for the experience on that hardware. So even though they can make money on the cloud potentially and make money on PC, those are just argument chips for you on Twitter. That's not going to suffice for you as a gamer. Talking to you, things are not looking good. And if things continue on this trajectory, your way of gaming is in serious danger. Here's what you need to do. You need to go to Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and say, look, I love gaming here. I love gaming on Xbox. And this can become a viable way to game once again, right up there with PlayStation here on this box. But you guys got to put out better output. You can't just line stuff Game Pass. You can't just stocking stuff, rather, Game Pass. You got to put top-notch, high-quality, AAA genre defining stuff in there. Don't just send Sarah out there to call something the most important RPG of our time. No, that's not going to fly. If it's going to be the most important one, it needs to be the best. That's your responsibility. So yes, feel free and have fun. I think you deserve it. Feel free and have fun to go back and attack those that have misled you, that have benefited from you. Like some of these creators, they've had the gall to say, well, none of this stuff is happening that Xbox said it would. The definitive Xbox experience is going to be on PC. I guess I got to get a PC. You've had these same creators are selling you this garbage. And guess what? While it's easy for them to go build a computer, guess what they're building it with? Your money, your support. And guess what? In all likelihood, you can't do the same. You got to wake up. You got to wake up. And you just got to do better. You ain't got to like PlayStation. You just simply go to Xbox, though, and demand that they do better. They give you more. They bring it back to the days of BioShock and Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic, where their games were innovative, they were top-notch, and there was no denying them. Those games were not denied. All right? That is it from your boy. Hope you appreciate it. I will see you guys and gals later. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace.